Hello, and thank you for joining me today as we discuss bone growth and development. So, we're going to continue our discussion on the skeletal system and look at how your bones grow and develop. So, at the end of this, you'll be able to distinguish between osteoblasts and osteocytes. Wow, that was really thick. We'll look at how intramembranous and endochondral bone formation differ. We'll identify where the two types of bone are found, so these two types. Look at the importance of primary and secondary ossification centers in the bone and what those mean. And we're going to talk about what's called Wolff's Law and how it applies to our bodies. So let's get rolling. So bone development and growth. Your bones start to develop in the first few weeks after conception. You continue to grow into adulthood. It starts to develop in the first few weeks and you continue to grow into adulthood. So this is after you're born, your bones start to develop and grow there. Two ways bones form to replace existing connective tissue. One, we have intramembranous bone, which form from sheets of connective tissue. We also have endochondral bone, so chondral. Think of cartilage, so form from masses of cartilage. So endochondral forms from cartilage, intramembranous is sheets of connective tissue that come together. Your intramembranous bone forms the flat bones of the skull. And so your skull bones are all formed by intramembranous bone formation. It's a membrane, so like the connective tissues come together and solidify. They're filled with osteoblasts, which are bone forming cells. So osteo is bone, blast refers to a forming cell. Once your osteoblast is fully surrounded by bone, and when it can't create any more new bone, it's called an osteocyte. This is a mature bone cell. So osteo refers to bone, site refers to cell. So this is a little minion picture. This would be you as an infant. And we'll talk about these different pieces here. But notice the bones are really small. As they expand out and develop, eventually they form osteocytes. For endochondral bones, most of the bones of your skeleton are endochondral. They have two primary bone forming centers called ossification centers. So you have a primary ossification center, primary bone forming center, and a secondary ossification center, or bone forming center there. Your primary center is found in the middle of the bone. Remember, that's called the diaphysis. So your diaphysis houses your primary ossification center. Your secondary ossification center is found at the ends of bones, which is called your epiphyses. This is where your osteoblasts are found, and they produce bone there, and that's how your bones get bigger, is through those centers. This is showing you the progression. So as you grow, as you develop, you have a primary ossification center formed here. So this is all cartilage, and you're going to form bone from it. And so the primary ossification center grows, begins to expand, and it breaks down the cartilage as it goes, but that is the primary ossification center. Eventually, you're going to get this blood vessel that goes to the epiphyses, and they produce an ossification center there. So this is going to be your secondary center, which is then surrounded by articular cartilage. But where these two meet, we're going to talk about this. This is your epiphyseal plate. You know it better as the growth plate. So this is what forms your growth plates in your body. And this is how eventually you go from an epiphyseal plate to an epiphyseal line. So instead of a growth plate, you have effectively a growth line, which is where those two centers join together. This is looking at a young individual. And so this is your epiphyseal plate on this side. You can't really see it on this picture, but here's a look at a smaller, there's one there. You can kind of see one, I think, down in there. But it's tough to see in that picture there. When you become full grown, your body's going to respond to different stimuli. And so after your bone matures, we have this idea take over. It's known as Wolff's Law, which works out, it kind of fits the description. But Wolff's Law states that bone will adapt to stress and use that to determine whether it should resorb or deposit nutrients and minerals. Basically, Wolff's Law can be summed up as if you don't use it, you lose it. in that if you are not utilizing your bones, if you live a sedentary lifestyle, the bones in your legs and arms that aren't being used very often are going to, your body's going to resorb those nutrients and use them elsewhere. So it doesn't have to go through the process of producing and isolating new nutrients that can use what's already there. But the more stress you put on a bone, the more bone will be deposited, the more that bone's going to become thicker, more solid there. If you don't use it, your resorption will occur because the body will not waste resources. This is why your muscle attachment sites are more exaggerated. So think of that bump on your knee, on your lower leg, is your tibial tuberosity, which we're going to talk about. This is where Osgood-Schlatter's disease comes from. So if you have where it pulls and it hurts to run and walk and do sports right below your knee, and you have to wear bands sometimes, that's Osgood-Schlatter's. That's based on this Wolff's Law premise. There. All right, thank you for working through this with me today. Here are some review questions for you. So look through these, pause the video, make sure you can answer them. If you have questions, come see me. We'll talk through it together and hopefully come to an understanding. But thank you for your time and attention. Enjoy the rest of your day, and I will see you next time.